Hey, good morning, everyone. It is September 5th. Wow, the days are going by even quicker now. We just wrapped up the long weekend, right? The Labor Day long weekend. Yesterday was off. The futures market was open until about 1 p.m. There was a slight little pullback here on the yesterday market open, but generally speaking, stocks were closed and there wasn't too much volume and movement, right? I didn't trade, didn't even look at the market yesterday, looked at it overnight. Decent slip up after we got a pop on the overnight session, rallied quite a bit, and then pulled, or I wouldn't say rallied quite a bit, and that was on Friday's close. I'd say dropped quite a bit and then pulled up here in the wee hours of the night. So we'll kind of take a look at what happened there, what some of the expectations are, because we're running into a period right now of generally expected a higher volume and volatility in the coming next 2 weeks. It should really pick up. But there's also cyclical and seasonal approaches to that, where midpoint of this month in 2 weeks or so, there is the expectation the market does start pulling back for that seasonal rotation before we do see that next leg to the upside. So a lot of people are looking at this and thinking the last run into the end of mid-July, something like that, was a bear market rally, right? We're starting to turn around. There's going to be downside that's going to be evident running into the new year. I think that, yeah, okay, there could be pullbacks, but generally speaking, I'm not necessarily expecting this massive downturn movement. So seasonality tells us that there should be a pullback in the coming next few weeks. Um, that usually does get picked up into the end of the year. And a lot of things are actually pointing to a late cycle market in the next few quarters, right? We have commodities, for example, that are running a little more rampant, right? Things like oil is in very, very high demand right now. And there is the expectation for it to climb, along with metals, right? Materials, stuff like that. There's also the uncertainty around grain, right? This is global grain prices, right? Based on what's going on, Russia, Ukraine, right? Turkey as well wrapped up discussions with Russia based on the Black Sea Grain Initiative on shaky ground since it was first signed July 2022. And the UN also backed agreement sought to guarantee the safety of food supply chains despite the attacks on grain export facilities and slow ship inspections and uncertain renewal deadlines as well. So it's a big deal, as Ukraine is one of the world's largest suppliers of wheat and corn, and products about half produces about half of the global sunflower oil use. So the war contributed to the extreme volatility in the environment for global grain price in 2022, with crises and shortages popping up in regions across Asia, Africa, and the Middle East, along with Latin America. And at their last meeting, Putin told Erdogan that he would revive the grain deal, or he wouldn't revive the grain deal, right, unless restrictions on Russia's agricultural exports were removed, including the food and fertilizer that have been hampered by sanctions on financing and shipping. So it comes into cohesion with just general commodities getting a lot of demand in the late cycle rally in the overall market, which is something that we could see in the coming quarters. The way I see this, right, is that we could start the week on a little more of a bearish note. What I'm looking at right now over the last few days was a lot of these rallies were sold off, right? There was a little more bearishness coming into this market over the last few days, right, as we peaked into those mid to high 4500s. We were very, very close to seeing that 4560 area, which was the top of the distribution on the S&P. I'll talk a little more about that in the trading plan in just a bit, but whoa. Airbnb, right? Hosts in New York are bracing for new regulations that would go into effect today. We also have Airbnb entering, what was it? They were jumping on the S&P 500. But they're effectively banning short-term rentals in New York, and the city argues that short-term rentals take away a much-needed affordable housing stock, and hotels are surely not big fans. So this may not be a material adverse effect on Airbnb's results, but many hosts fear that the stringent rules could set a precedent and destroy the benefits of the sharing economy. I know in Toronto there's a lot of bans realistically on Airbnb and short-term rentals, but I don't think that really stops anyone from what I've seen. So not too much news going into this, right? We did have the long weekend. Excuse me. Today we have factory orders and excuse me, and investor movement indices that come out, but not too much. Generally speaking, markets are down a little here pre-market. Nasdaq, S&P, kind of struggling to catch a bit over the last few days here. And talking about distributions, right? We're towards the bottom end of a key distribution. There is a ledge that holds out around 4,500 up into the 44 high 90s that we have to take into consideration. If this area starts breaking down and there's some bearishness, we're probably going to see 44.83, and then that becomes a massive final barrier before prices really take a beating. So I think that we'd be kind of surprised in terms of sideways rotation this week. It is a shorter week. We only have 4 days this week, starting with today. Generally speaking, in terms of full volume and the overall market actually being fully open. So that's something that we do have to consider. The top of the distribution, 45.60. I still think that they do want to explore that, maybe a bit higher before we do see that turning point, which brings in seasonality towards the middle of this month, towards the end of this month, leading into next month. So that's generally what I'm looking at. Slow start to this week. I want to see real movement. I want to see what is actually going on. So I'm not going to be trading very big today. I need to get a little more understanding of where this market's going to get a better read of it, and we'll go from there. So thank you, everyone that joined me. We're going to open up our live trading. Remember, we had that promo on the weekend. So our live room is no longer open, but I hope to see you all there. And remember, check out our website. We have a free futures course that's available to all there. So thank you, and we'll chat soon.